A whispers from the watcher. What if I told you that one book could alter the rhythm of your days, the meaning of time itself, and the way heaven measures faith? It begins not with man, nor with the world as we know it, but with an angel, one who watched when light first pierced the void. I am the watcher of the tablets. I do not slumber. I inscribe what is what was and what must come. And once long ago, a book descended among men, the Book of Jubilees. They called it Little Genesis, but its scope reached beyond the stars. It spoke of angels made before Eden of time, etched in perfect symmetry of commandments, whispered not at Sinai, but at the dawn of man. It told too much, and so it was cast out, hidden, banished from the councils of the powerful, erased from the libraries of popes and priests. Buried beneath dogma, it survived only in whispers carried in the liturgy of the Ethiopian saints and guarded by those who feared not truth. But why? What was so dangerous, so forbidden that this book had to vanish? Oh, let me show you. When the Most High formed the cosmos, He did not merely shape earth and sea. He appointed hours. He assigned days. He laid down a rhythm so divine even the angels marched to its beat. And on that first day, He made us the watchers of time. We numbered the seasons. We lit the stars. We blessed the Sabbath before Adam even breathed. This was the order of heaven. But man forgot. The Book of Jubilees was never meant for all eyes. It was dictated to Moses not before Pharaoh, but atop Sinai in the cloud of thunder and fire. Not by a voice alone, but by a scribe of heaven. And Moses, he trembled as he wrote. This was not just law, it was memory. It spoke of a calendar, a solar path of 364 days, 4 perfect seasons, 13 perfect weeks, each Sabbath falling exactly where it must. No drift, no decay, a timekeeper's dream, a priest's delight, a heretic's terror. Because if Jubilees was right, the calendar we follow now, the moon-change shifting human thing, is wrong, and worse, out of rhythm with God Himself. Oh, you see, man once walked in harmony with the divine. Adam kept the Sabbath. Noah offered sacrifice by eternal law. Abraham knew purity not by chance, but by celestial command, inscribed on what we call the heavenly tablets. They are real. I keep them. And every law, every breath of holy time is written upon their stone. But in time, darkness grew. The moon replaced the sun. The sacred days slipped from their moorings, and the councils of flesh decided Jubilees must be silenced. The Pharisees scoffed. The church fathers feared. They met in Nicene halls and whispered of order, of unity, of control. They needed a canon, one book, not many, one voice, not echoes. And so they severed the truth. The Book of Jubilees was condemned, its truth too wild, its angels too present, its order too precise. Oh, but heaven remembers what man forgets. And now you will remember too. For this is not just a story, it is a reckoning. In the next part, I will show you the structure of time itself as it was meant to be kept, as it was written before light touched the deep. Through the eyes of angels. Part 2. The sacred clock. Time as heaven measures it. Before calendars, before clocks, before even the sun's first blaze across the firmament, there was order. Not man's order, God's. And that order was written, not in ink, but in light. We call it the heavenly rhythm, the divine clock. It ticks not with seconds, but with Sabbaths. It does not reset at midnight, but on sacred thresholds that angels observe with reverence beyond words. In the Book of Jubilees, this sacred system is unveiled, a solar calendar of 364 days, 4 perfect seasons each, with exactly 91 days. 13 flawless weeks in every quarter. No drift, no loss, no confusion. Every Sabbath returns always on the 7th day. Every festival aligns. Every commandment finds its day. It is the way time was meant to be. The way heaven still keeps it. Oh, but mankind, we traded this for convenience, For the moon ever shifting, ever incomplete, we let festivals drift. We watched the Sabbath wobble, and heaven watched in silence. Oh, imagine living by heaven's clock again. What would change in your soul? If this reflection speaks to you, then pause with us right now and subscribe to Verse and Wisdom. Here, every story is sacred, every moment purposeful. Join us as we uncover the ancient rhythm of light. Aste. Now, return with me to that first moment. Not the moment of man, the moment of time itself. Jubilees tells us that on the first day God made the angels not as decoration, but as keepers of time. Each one given charge over a day, a season, a cycle. Some were placed over the stars, ensuring they moved in harmony. Some over festivals, marking sacred time with fire and song. And one was given the Sabbath. He is the angel of the seventh day, the guardian of holy rest. He walks, even now, among the prayers of the weary, blessing those who pause when the world demands movement. But here is the sorrow. When men abandoned the calendar of the heavens, they abandoned his presence too. He still comes, but fewer hear him. In Jubilees, this is no small sin. To reject the sacred calendar is to fall out of alignment with the very heartbeat of heaven. There will be those who will surely make observations of the moon, the text warns, but they will disturb the seasons and make an abominable day the day of testimony. Jubilees 6:37. These are not just poetic words, they are a divine lament. The divine clock still ticks, but we no longer hear it. Do you ever feel out of rhythm? Not just tired, but disconnected. Perhaps what you're feeling is not chaos. Perhaps it is homesickness, a longing to return to a time when your soul moved with heaven's seasons. In the next part, we descend into the memory of Eden, where Adam walked not just in innocence, but in holy rhythm. He was taught by angels. He was commanded, not by prophets, but by celestial scribes. And you may be surprised by what those first laws were. Part 3. The first beings and the architecture of time. In the beginning, before soil took form, before rivers carved their way, before breath touched clay, God created light, and within that light, he made the first beings. They were not human. They were not bound to dust. They were watchers. We know them as angels, but not all were messengers. Some were timekeepers, assigned to mark the flow of days. Others guarded the Sabbath like a crown upon the week. The Book of Jubilees speaks clearly. On the first day of creation, God made the angels. They were given charge not only over stars and seas, but over rhythm. They sang the seasons into motion and taught the heavens how to turn. They kept the sacred order. This is not myth. It is the architecture of time, designed with precision and pulsing with divine breath. When Adam was formed, he did not open his eyes to confusion. He awoke into a world already singing. A rhythm awaited him, set by angelic hands. A day for rest, a time for sacrifice, a covenant in the air itself. It was not Moses who first heard God's law. It was Adam. And the voice came not alone, but through the presence of angels. Jubilees tells us these beings taught Adam. They instructed him in purity. They showed him how to live in holiness, how to walk the garden in step with heaven. This was the first covenant delivered not on stone, but through the nearness of light. Sabbath marriage, cleanliness, worship. These were not human inventions. They were gifts from the heavenly tablets, breathed into the bones of man from the very beginning. But man did not keep the rhythm. Not for long. Cain rose in rage, and the pulse of heaven shuddered. Blood stained the ground, and the cycle broke. Sin entered, and with it came the forgetting. Jubilees mourns this moment, not just because a brother was slain, but because the divine pattern fractured. What was perfect was now bleeding. The angels withdrew slowly, silently, but not all. Some stayed watching, whispering, keeping record. Satan. You may wonder why all this matters. What does it change to believe that angels taught Adam, or that laws predated Sinai? But this changes everything. It means holiness was always meant for us from the start. not as burden but as birthright. It means the Sabbath is not just tradition. It is a chord in the music of the world. A note we have stopped playing, and the silence has grown loud. In the next part, you will meet Noah, not just the survivor of the flood, but the keeper of an ancient covenant. He too was taught by angels. He too followed the heavenly rhythm, and what he carried through the waters was more than a family. It was memory. Part 4. The War of Calendars and the Great Drift. Noah stood not only as a survivor, but as a bridge between the old world and what would come next. After the flood, when the waters receded and the silence of judgment faded, Noah stepped onto dry ground. He brought with him more than life. He brought remembrance. He knew the sacred time. He had been taught by angels just as Adam had. He observed the Sabbath. He offered sacrifice. He followed the divine pattern etched on the heavenly tablets. And so a covenant was renewed. But it was not a new covenant. It was a restoration of what had been lost. Jubilees tells us that God gave Noah commandments to preserve purity, to honor time, to pass on to his sons the rhythm of heaven. But the drift began again. Generations passed and men grew restless. They watched the moon, its shifting glow, its soft seduction, and they began to mark their days not by the sun, but by the night. A great war began not of swords, but of calendars. The divine clock was being rewritten by human hands. The Book of Jubilees does not hide its warning. It speaks with sorrow. There will be those who will follow the moon. They will disturb the seasons. They will desecrate sacred days. What was once fixed became fluid. Sabbaths slipped. Festivals wandered. And the people became lost in time. Not just physically, spiritually. Imagine a feast meant to fall on a day of light, now shadowed by a wrong moon. Imagine a Sabbath misplaced, forgotten, buried under busy calendars. Heaven weeps, not because we miscounted, but because we broke rhythm. This is more than dates on a page. This is about alignment. Alignment with the heart of God. And yet, there remains a remnant, a people, a calendar, a rhythm. Still alive, the Ethiopian church still follows the path of the sun, still honors the 364 days, still marks the weeks as heaven does. Could it be that they kept what the world lost? Could it be that this forgotten book was never forgotten by God? What would happen if we returned to that time? If we realigned our lives not by screens and schedules, but by sacred signs, would we find peace? Clarity, a stillness long missing. In the next part, we meet Abraham, but not the Abraham of simple stories. We meet a rebel, a breaker of idols, a man taught by angels and chosen before birth. His story changes everything. Part 5. Abraham the rebel and the voice from the fire. Abraham, the father of faith, was once a child among idols. His house was filled with images of stone, wooden faces with empty eyes, burned offerings to gods that could not speak. But something stirred in him, a question, a fire, and then a voice, not a dream, not a whisper of thought, a presence. An angel of the Lord sent not just to call, but to teach. Jubilees reveals a story not told in Genesis, that Abraham, before he heard God's call to leave his homeland, had already rejected the gods of men. He shattered their idols. He set fire to their altars. He fled into the wilderness, guided by the divine. It was there alone beneath the stars that the teachings began. The angel came not with thunder, but with scrolls. He unfolded the laws of heaven. He spoke of the Sabbath of purity, of holy living, and Abraham listened. He was not just called to a new land. He was called to a new way, a way that echoed Adam, that reflected Noah, the way of the heavenly tablets. Jubilees tells us that Abraham observed the Sabbath circumcised. His sons offered the right sacrifices long before Sinai, because he was taught by those who served in heaven. This was not innovation. It was memory. And then came the covenant. In Genesis, we read of circumcision, a physical mark. But in Jubilees, it is more. It is eternal, written in the heavenly tablets, ordained before the foundation of the world. An alignment, not of flesh alone, but of soul, a sign that one walks in rhythm with the Creator. This is not just the story of one man's faith. It is the story of a transmission, from angel to prophet, from heaven to earth. A pattern, repeated but always in danger of being forgotten. Why was this hidden? Why did the councils, the synods, the scholars remove this book? Because Abraham in Jubilees is not a follower of law. He is a forerunner. He obeys not out of command, but because he sees. He walks not behind the law, but within it. And such a vision was too great, too wild, too free. In the next part, we face the most haunting moment, the binding of Isaac, but not as you have heard it before. In Jubilees, the test is not just a test. It is a battle between light and darkness, and someone else was watching. Part 6, the binding and the battle in the sky. The mountain was quiet. The boy walked beside his father, wood on his back, trust in his eyes. But the silence of earth was not the silence of heaven. Above, a conflict stirred, for this was not just a test. It was a challenge issued by a being called Master. Jubilees names him the Prince of Evil, the one who seeks to break the righteous by doubt, by terror, by deception. It was he who came before the Lord and said, "Abraham does not truly fear you. Try him, prove him." And so the trial began. But even as Abraham lifted the knife, there was movement above. An angel not of wrath, but of witness intervened. "Do not harm the boy. The Lord has seen your heart." What we find in Jubilees is more than obedience. It is resistance. Not just Abraham's, but heaven's. The angels resisted darkness, stood in defense of righteousness, acted not only as messengers, but as protectors. They shielded the covenant. They ensured the rhythm would continue. This was not the only time. Time and again, Master returned. He stood at the side of Cain. He walked among the Nephilim. He whispered to Egypt's pharaohs. He hardened hearts and clouded minds. But always the angels stood watching, guarding, intervening when the balance trembled. It is tempting to see the Bible as a story of humans alone. But it never was. Behind the curtain, the watchers moved. Jubilees tears down that veil and shows us the true stage. Heaven and earth intertwined. Angels and men caught in the same story. And yet it is man who must choose. Abraham chose trust when the knife trembled, and heaven recorded his choice on the tablets as testimony for all generations. It is written that those who walk in faith, even through fire, even through shadows, will be remembered. Their names, their actions, their sacrifices inscribed not in books, but in eternity. Do you ever wonder who watches your trials, who walks unseen beside you? The story of Abraham tells us you are never truly alone. Even in the silence, there are witnesses. Even in the test, there is purpose. In the next part 2, brothers will wrestle for a birthright. But their struggle was foretold, for even in the womb, heaven had already chosen. Part 7, the 2 brothers and the shadow of nations. In the womb they wrestled, Jacob and Esau. 2 lives, 2 destinies, 2 nations forming before breath. Rebekah felt the struggle and cried out, "Why is this happening to me?" And the Lord answered, 2 peoples are within you. One will be stronger. The older will serve the younger. But Jubilees adds more. The choice was not made in the womb. It was written long before, inscribed on the heavenly tablets, sealed with light. Jacob was chosen not because of cunning, but because of calling. He was to carry the covenant. He was to walk the rhythm. He was to restore the forgotten pattern. And Esau, though beloved, would stray. He would become the father of a line that would rise in defiance, a nation of rebellion set against the law of heaven. This is not simply a family feud. This is prophecy, a spiritual divide written across generations. And even Isaac and Rebekah were told. They knew the heart of Esau, his desires, his future. But still they hoped. In time, the blessing was passed through quiet deception and divine design. Jacob fled with promise in his hands and destiny on his shoulders. If you are finding these stories not just interesting, but awakening something deeper in you, then take a moment. Subscribe to Verse and Wisdom. Here, we do more than retell the Bible. We restore its rhythm, its wonder, its voice. You are part of this journey, this rediscovery, and the next chapter waits for you. Jacob's journey was not only escape. It was transformation. He saw angels ascending, descending. He heard the voice of the Lord. I am the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac. This land is yours, and your descendants shall be as the stars. But it was not just a promise of land. It was a call to responsibility. According to Jubilees, Jacob received not only blessing but law, the same law taught to Abraham, the same Sabbath, the same purity, the same calendar. The covenant did not begin with Moses. It continued through Jacob, written on the tablets, guarded by the angels, delivered in dreams and revelation. Jacob became not just a patriarch, but a keeper of rhythm, a carrier of light. And so the lineage continued. But Esau chose another way. He left. He built his house. He raised a nation in the hills of Edom, and their sons would rise against Israel again and again, not just in battle, but in spirit. This is the struggle Jubilees reveals. Not between brothers, but between two paths, one toward the order, one toward chaos, one remembering heaven, one lost in the world. In the next part, the sons of Jacob will rise, but one will fall, and his fall will change the balance of the tribes forever. Part 8, Reubens Fall and the Rise of Two Tribes. 12 sons, 12 beginnings, 12 tribes destined to shape a nation. But from the start, there was a fracture. Reuben, the firstborn. The strength of Jacob fell, not in battle, but in silence, in sin. He violated the order, crossed a line written not by men, but by heaven. And Jubilees records it clearly. Because of his sin, Reuben lost the inheritance. He was first in birth, but not in legacy. It was not just a personal failure. It was a disruption of the sacred structure. The heavenly tablets had marked him for honor, but his actions removed him. And so the balance shifted. Two sons rose, Judah for the scepter, Levi for the priesthood. Judah, from whom kings would come, from whose line the Messiah would rise. Levi set apart, not for rule, but for sacrifice. The keepers of the altar, the teachers of law, those who would stand between God and the people. This was no political choice. This was divine correction, an adjustment to keep the rhythm intact. For leadership in Israel was never just about blood, it was about alignment with the will of heaven. And yet this reshaping of the tribes carried deep consequences, because each son carried not only a name, but a purpose. Each tribe a thread in the tapestry of God's design. Jubilees tells us that even the birth of these sons was set by divine schedule, not random but ordered. Each arrival according to the sacred calendar, and their futures written before they breathed. This is not the story of a family. This is the architecture of a nation formed with precision woven into prophecy. But even prophecy feels pain, for Jacob, now called Israel, saw his house tremble. Brothers, jealous favoritism sown, and one son cast down. Joseph, the dreamer, the beloved, the betrayed. His story is known, but in Jubilees the betrayal echoes louder, because it is not just treachery, it is violation. The brothers sell Joseph, and their act is recorded, not just in memory, but on the tablets. Their sin marked in heaven, their guilt carried through generations, until repentance, until reckoning. And still, God worked. Joseph was not destroyed. He was preserved not just by circumstance, but by angels. Jubilees says they were sent to guard his journey, to keep him alive for the sake of the promise. In the next part, Joseph will rise, but not for power, for purpose. His life will become a bridge, and through him the rhythm will continue, even in Egypt. Part 9, Joseph's destiny and the hidden hand of heaven. He was thrown into a pit, sold by blood, forgotten by brothers. But Joseph was not forgotten by heaven. Jubilees tells us his path was not chance. It was written before betrayal, before dreams. On the tablets, his destiny had already been marked. God sent angels to guard him, not once, but again and again. When he was taken in chains, they walked beside him. When he stood in Pharaoh's court, they strengthened his voice. He was never alone. In Egypt he rose, not by luck, but by purpose. He interpreted dreams, but more than that, he carried memory. the memory of the rhythm of sacred time of divine law. Even in a foreign land, he honored the Sabbath. He remembered the offerings, he walked the path of his fathers. And because of him, Israel survived. Famine came, but the house of Jacob was preserved. Yet this preservation came at a cost, because the journey to Egypt was not just rescue, it was the beginning of bondage. Jubilees reveals this too, was foreseen. It was written that the sons of Israel would be bound, oppressed, tested, but also delivered. At an appointed time on a day marked long ago, they would rise again. Joseph knew this. Before he died, he told his brothers, "God will surely visit you and bring you out to the land he swore." He asked to be remembered to be carried home, not just in bones, but in promise. The Book of Jubilees connects Joseph to the Exodus. His life was not the end of the story, but the beginning of deliverance. He was a keeper of order in a land of chaos, a servant of light among gods of stone. Even his trials were part of the design. Even his separation was preparation, because God's rhythm never stops, even when hidden, even when silenced. If this journey has stirred something in you, a longing to understand not just what happened, but why it matters, then let your next step be with us. Subscribe to Verse and Wisdom. Here, we do not merely read, we remember. We do not just listen. We return to truth, to light, to the rhythm written before time. Sati. In the next part, darkness will grow. Pharaoh will forget. Chains will tighten and the cries of Israel will rise. But even in bondage, the calendar still turns, and deliverance is coming. Part 10. The Cry from Egypt and the Hidden Calendar of Heaven. A new Pharaoh rose, one who knew not Joseph, one who saw the people of Israel not as guests, but as threat. And so the chains tightened, work without rest, lashes without mercy, children taken, Sabbath broken. But heaven watched. Jubilees tells us this suffering was not forgotten. It was recorded on the tablets, their groans, their prayers, their silence, all written. This bondage was not only political, it was spiritual, because Egypt was more than a kingdom. It was a power, a force of darkness, a structure of rebellion against heaven. And behind Pharaoh there stood another master, the prince of wickedness. He stirred fear. He whispered cruelty, he hardened the heart. His aim was not just to enslave, but to erase, to break the rhythm, to silence the Sabbath, to scatter the people until they forgot who they were. But the calendar remained. Jubilees reveals that the Exodus was not a random event. It was timed perfectly to the divine order. On the 14th day of the first month, God acted. This was no accident, it was prophecy, written on the tablets from the beginning. The plagues were not just punishments, they were signs. Each one a blow against the gods of Egypt, each one a trumpet from heaven. The Nile turned to blood. Frogs, flies, darkness. The firstborn loss. But it was not just vengeance, it was deliverance. Heaven moved not in rage, but in rhythm. And when the hour came, the people left, not scattered, not afraid, but in order, tribe by tribe, name by name, as the angels watched. Jubilees tells us this was a sacred procession, a return not just to land, but to law. Because freedom without order is chaos. Have you ever felt that the world you walk in is out of sync? That time races, but meaning slips away. Jubilees reminds us, true time is not kept by watches, but by worship. When we forget sacred time, we forget who we are. In the next part, we return to the mountain. But what Moses receives is not new. It is ancient, etched long before on tablets not of stone, but of glory. Part 11. Sinai and the revelation of what was already known. The mountain burned. Smoke rose like a pillar. The earth shook and Israel trembled. They stood at the foot. But Moses climbed alone into the cloud, into the fire, into the presence. But what he received was not new. It had been known from the beginning. Jubilees tells us that the law given on Sinai was already written on the heavenly tablets. Long before Moses, it had been taught to Adam, to Noah, to Abraham, to Jacob. Each had received pieces, fragments of the eternal pattern. Now at Sinai it was given in fullness. This was not innovation, it was restoration, a return to what was, to what must be. Moses wrote, but he was not the author. The words came from the divine, echoed through the angels, and descended like rain onto stone. And yet even then the people trembled. They saw the lightning but missed the light. They heard the thunder but forgot the voice. Jubilees reveals that the law was not just for Israel. It was for all creation. The angels keep the Sabbath. The heavenly hosts observe the festivals. The cycles of time from stars to soil move by its rhythm. This is why the law is not temporary, not cultural. It is cosmic. It binds heaven and earth. It aligns the soul to the Creator's breath. And yet so many have turned away. They see commandments as burdens. They see Sabbath as outdated. They see festivals as forgotten rituals. But heaven sees them as lifelines. Have you ever wondered what your life would look like if it moved with sacred time? Not just appointments, but alignments. Not just dates, but days that matter. There is still time to return. Subscribe now to Verse and Wisdom and walk with us into these ancient paths. Together, we remember what was lost. We listen for the rhythm that still echoes between our days. In the next part, we glimpse the end. Not the end of stories, but the end of disorder. A vision of what comes when time is restored and heaven reigns again. Part 12, the final rhythm and the restoration of all things history moves like a wheel. Nations rise, then fall. Hearts burn, then grow cold. But the Book of Jubilees tells us there is an end written from the beginning. A return to what was pure. A restoration of the sacred order. It speaks of a day when the angels descend again, not in dreams, but in power, to separate the faithful from the false, to gather those who kept the rhythm, who walked in the light, who remembered the covenant. And Master, the Prince of Darkness, will be bound, cast into the abyss until the final judgment. The world will no longer be ruled by fear, but by peace. In that day, the law will not be carved in stone, but in hearts. The Sabbath will be a joy, the festivals a song, the calendar a harmony restored. The righteous will shine like stars, not because they were perfect, but because they listened. They paused when the world rushed. They remembered when others forgot. They kept the sacred time while others chased shadows. Do you hear it now? The rhythm beneath the noise, the pulse of heaven still calling. It is not too late to return, to slow down, to listen, to align. We live in a world of schedules, but not of purpose, of calendars, but not of meaning. Jubilees offers a way back, not to the past, but to the truth. Thank you for walking this journey with us. If this series opened something in you, if the light touched your heart, then stay with us. Subscribe to Verse and Wisdom. Here, every story we tell is a step toward the sacred. You are not alone, and your name, your story, your time is not forgotten. It too is written. May you walk with courage. May you rest in rhythm. May you return to the days of light.